I can't tell you how many times I've heard a man say, she knows everything now. And honestly, every time I hear this, it makes me cringe. Not so much because I think he's lying, but because I know he believes it. And that belief itself is the problem. So let's discuss that some more. Welcome to Beyond the Facade podcast. I'm your host, Luke Gordon, and I'm thrilled to have you join me in this space today. What we're going to be doing is diving deep into the trials and triumphs and truths of seeking authenticity. Becoming your true self isn't about a single action or moment. It's a relentless pursuit, a commitment to self that reveals the rich connection and meaning that our life has to offer. So whether this is your first time tuning in or you're a regular listener, know this: what you're building here goes beyond a conversation. You're here to challenge, to change, and to celebrate the incredible journey of becoming your authentic self. Because when you dare to show up fully, the rewards are immeasurable. So welcome to Beyond the Facade. Let's get started. All right, everybody. So what we're going to do here is we're going to talk about this. You've already read the title of the episode. So it's the myth of I've told you everything. So just go back to a moment when if you're the betrayed partner, your partner says, everything's out there. Everything's out there. And you're just like, oh, it just doesn't feel right. Think about the times that you're like, if you're the betraying partner, the times that you've been like, everything's out there. And you're just so want her to see that and go, want your partner to acknowledge that you've shared everything. And she's hesitating, or they're hesitating. Let me expand on this part, which is it's cringe. Not because I think the person is lying, but it's because they believe it. And that's being the problem. Because at the end of the day, it reflects that there's a misunderstanding of like honesty and awareness. So I just want to point out that most people don't realize that they're still trapped in a constructed reality, in something that they've constructed to live in the world that they believe is real. But that version of their story, it feels safe, it feels logical, it feels defensible, but isn't fully true. Okay. Can I just repeat that again? So a version of the story that feels safe, logical, and defensible, but isn't fully true. So let's tie in what people do. So they create realities all the time. All right. So denial isn't just like refusing to see something. It's not like, I don't want to see that. It's like building an entire worldview that keeps you from seeing what reality is, right? We construct it, or it is constructed. So we all build stories that make sense of our world. That's a human experience, right? Just like step into another culture, step into another part of the world, watch it crumble what you think you know. Just because you step into some, because diversity happens, because you step into a place where you're like, something's different. The problem is when the story becomes like this fortress of I have to believe this. I can't look at anything different. So when we defend that fortress that we've built, and we defend that with like selective evidence, like we're looking at things and we're going, okay, this is how I can make sense of this. There's just going to be a bunch of rationalization. There's going to be a bunch of partial truths, right? And we don't have to actually see it. Let's just think of someone who believes something that's clearly not true and then gathers endless evidence to prove it. All right. So that's not deception. That's devotion to some false narrative. And that's exactly what denial does. I don't know how y'all feel about this analogy. Maybe I brought it up in a podcast before, but think about a flat earther. There's some really passionate people out there that are like the world's flat, the earth's flat. And it's like, really? That's what you believe? How? And they can actually provide some evidence or whatever it might be for them to make sense of it, to believe what they believe. So that's exactly what denial does. What we want to do is we want to name the pattern. In our groups, especially phase 1 and phase 2 groups, men's groups, is we talk about the addictive system at work. And please learn about it if you haven't already. It's so important. Because if we just start focusing on like the problem is the behavior itself, the problem is the cheating, the problem is the porn, the problem is the lying, we don't even tackle what's at the root here. Okay. So Let's zoom in on what's actually happening internally when a person says, I've told you everything, right? Let's tie it into the addictive system and specifically the belief structures that come into place. So the addictive system depends on control. What is it trying to control? An image, an emotion, a narrative, and an outcome. So I've told you everything becomes like a control statement. It's like, it's not about truth. It's about regaining balance, right? When something feels out of balance. There's the belief that's underneath this. And I'll give you some examples. Actually, I'll give you one example. A belief that might exist that's faulty is if I've arrived and now I am in reality, I don't have to keep facing harder truths. And how painful is that? Like that it comes in layers. Like every time we think we know, all of a sudden we're faced with something new. But if I've arrived and I figured it out, that means I won't face anything new, right? Now, no more surprises in my recovery. No more just that feeling of not knowing. So what somebody might say is I've told you everything, but what they're really saying is I need this one to be over. I need this to be over. I need to stop feeling like this out of control feeling. But here's the deal: recovery it's not about control. It's about the surrendering process. I mean, how annoying is it? Like 12-step, like surrender, right? It's not annoying. It's just it can feel hard when it's like recognizing that I need to let go. I do need to surrender. Let's spend some more time exploring some of these belief systems. If we had a belief infrastructure built on some early messages, maybe in family of origin around power, love, sex, truth, that can really shape our belief system that would cause us to not be able to be in reality, right? If I believe I'm not enough, if I believe that worth comes from acceptance comes from a performance, that means I'm going to have to build a infrastructure that supports that allows me to be able to stay accepted by people. So when these beliefs that we have, they're distorted, denial is going to take a lot of root because it feels safer than reality. But there's a lot of errors in thinking. So addictive system, belief systems, thinking errors. Okay. So that's what has to follow a belief system, has to prop it up, which is thinking errors. So it's the scaffolding to this like false self, right? So much of the blame shifting, the rationalization, the minimization, all of it happens because of the thinking errors, and I can mop up what I'm spilling myself. Okay. So let's talk about why it's so problematic. You might be like, look, we already talked about why it's problematic. But the illusion is I'm in full awareness. Okay. That's what I'm telling my partner. I am in full awareness. I have nothing to hide from you. I've shared everything. That's impossible, right? Oh my gosh, I get passionate about this. Just stop telling your partner that you're in full awareness. The impossibility of being in full awareness. I'm not in full awareness. I hate that I said that way. Like I'm the benchmark for full awareness. I'm actually trying to illustrate the fact that the full awareness is something that you are working for all the time to try to get there. So recovery, it's progressive. Like it's progressive. It's layered. What did I hear somebody say? It's progressive revelation. Like it builds. Like you can't understand one concept until I understand another concept. I can't be ready for one level of truth until I have a certain level of truth. By the way, I'm all of a sudden realizing as I'm like speaking, I'm becoming all of a sudden aware that I'm not giving like, if you're a betrayed partner or if you're a betraying partner, I'm not giving this pass on. It takes a little while before you can be honest because you're not in awareness. That's not what I'm saying. Like, I'm not saying like the lies that exist. It's just to stop defending the reality that you think is actually reality. Phase one of healing is coming out of denial. Okay. So early in healing, you don't yet have the capacity to see what's still hidden, right? Because your brain and your nervous system and the shame defenses they're still protecting you. They're still alive. They're still hitting. I think it's a lot of reason why trickle disclosures happen. I don't think trickle disclosures are all about partners going, I don't want to share all the truth with you. As I'm much to push that crap down and I don't want to acknowledge it or say anything about it. So I think that's the process, which is your brain and your nervous system and your shame defenses have to come down to gain access to those parts of our brains that we shut off. Okay. So true awareness grows as like safety grows. Okay. So I have the chance to come into true awareness as all of a sudden I realize I'm safe. Like when I watch guys go through the full disclosure process, it's amazing. You see them going, I don't know how. I can't remember all the details. How am I supposed to remember all this stuff? And you watch them lean into the process and they start to feel safer in ways they didn't even know was possible as they start to comb through the recesses of their brain. And they start to feel safer, even though they're going through all the hard stuff. And they're like, oh, wow, this isn't going to kill my relationship. It's scary. Maybe it will, but I'm not feeling the same way I used to about it. So they all of a sudden they have a level of awareness because safety increases. Where the safety increases, it came in through leaning into the process. So you can't see what your brain's still protecting you from. Can I say that again? You can't see what your brain's still protecting you from. That's why humility is like really essential in this process, because it keeps you open to learning what you can't see yet. All right, so let's talk about this false safety trap. So saying she knows everything provides emotional relief, right? So for him, it's sometimes even for her temporarily, right? If everything's out there, that can be a temporary relief for that, right? Some emotional relief. But that relief's built on a lie because it creates that false safety, that sense of stability that is going to collapse later when new truth emerges. That's the part is if I tell you, you know everything, when I come into awareness, now I got to defend like that, what I said earlier. We want to get rid of that. So false safety it's kind of like building a house on sand. So it feels like really solid, but it just takes a big wave and it knocks it all in. And it always does. Like it always does. So what are you building it on? Here's another piece of this. It's interesting how acknowledging the danger helps your partner. So when you name the reality, which is I don't know everything yet, you actually create some real safety right there. And it, paradoxically, like acknowledging danger builds trust because it signals like I'm self-awareness, humility. I'm not going to try to tell you everything's going to be okay. I don't know. I'm still working on going through my recovery. So when you can say that, I'm still learning to be honest, building a process to be honest for when you're not, what that looks like, there's going to be levels of trust that can start to be restored, even when you aren't acknowledging the fact that you're never going to make a mistake again. Because it's not about being perfect. It's about being real and it's about being consistent. That's what provides that level of, oh, I just forgot the word, stability. It's not that. Security. That's what creates the security is that consistency, not perfection. All right. So one more piece of the why it's so problematic, the illusion of full awareness is the arrival illusion, thinking that you've made it. So believing that you've arrived shuts down our ability to be able to grow. Okay. So if I think that I'm in full awareness and that's where I've gone, I'm like, yeah, it's all truth. I'm not going to be looking for evidence that I'm not in full awareness. I'm going to shut that down. So it signals that the learning process isn't over. Like I don't know. So now that's the self no longer needs to examine it, but now I need to examine it because I've acknowledged the fact that I'm not in full awareness. So it's that mindset that breeds like in recovery, like that mindset breeds stagnation and relapse when I think I've arrived. Because the moment you believe that you've arrived, in that moment, you're going to stop growing. And in recovery, when you stop growing, you start sliding back into your old system. All right, last piece of this. So managing outcomes versus living in truth. Let's break the distinction down. Okay, managing outcomes versus living in truth. So managing outcomes, that's what you're doing is controlling perceptions. So like that's your partner going, that's not the way that I see it. And you're like, no. I know what truth is. Let me show you what that truth is. You're managing a perception. I feel like you're hiding something. Nope, not hiding something. Live in my world. But you're not. Like that's controlling perception. That's managing outcomes. Trying to get specific results. For example, I need my partner to be calm. I need stability in my relationship. I need this image that I used to have restored. Managing outcomes. Living in truth. What is that? That's like being honest regardless of how it affects outcome. It's so beautiful to watch men do this. I love it. Sorry, I keep saying men, women betray too. Keep doing that. It's not just a man thing. Managing outcomes is still about you. But living in truth, being honest regardless of how that affects your outcomes. So when you let that go, your comfort, your control, your image, living in truth, that's about the integrity. So it's doing what's right, even though it'll cost you something or everything. And that is the letting go of the illusion of that I'm in full awareness. And there's something has to move there. Okay, let me give you, before we start to wrap out this episode, I want to give you some better alternatives, some language that could exist if you're used to defending your reality. Okay. Let me give you more practical language that you could use. Again, not a script. Find your version of this, right? Find what your truth is. So it might be something like this. Your partner's asking you all the details, and your theme of your messages right now, I've shared with you everything that I'm in awareness of, but I know there are parts of my story that I'm still learning to see right now. And I'm committing to the process. I'm not committing to what I think reality is. And it's not because I want to hide anything, but it's because I'm still waking up to myself. Now, I recognize when you say that, you're going to put your money where your mouth is. You have to go to your work to come more into awareness, right? You can't just say that and then you'll weaponize it if you just say that and don't do anything. You're weaponizing it to your partner, calm down, because it sounds like a good thing to say. I just want to encourage you, keep bringing those new insights forward. I'll let awareness deepen. We're going to practice curiosity. Why am I still holding that? What am I blind to? And get just super involved with people that feel safe, that can challenge your thinking, you feel like really value you, care about you. Mentors, therapists, coaches, other group members that give you feedback about your blind spots. They care about you, but don't sugarcoat anything for you. They care enough about you to not do that. They challenge your reality. So anyway, just appreciate you spending some time with me. The invitation is the myth that I've told you everything. It's not actually about so much the being dishonest. It's about that misunderstanding that what honesty really is. That truth telling, it's not like that finish line, but it's that way we live. It's that way of life. And it's how we live in humility, and we keep growing and we rebuild trust like one layer at a time. Just ask yourself right now, like, what parts of my story what am I still holding on to? What do I still need to believe? Ooh, wow, that was a strong feeling. What I still need to believe? What can't I look at right now? And let's look at it as a layer of truth and just watch what happens. Watch what happens when you share that next layer of truth and you see what happens, see what sets you free. All right, it's good to spend time with y'all. Hey, thanks for joining us today. If this is something that you connected with, I'd love to meet with you more and talk about it. So what you can do is go to chooserecoveryservices.com or check the show notes. And there, what we can do is set up a quick conversation to meet. Thanks so much for listening to Beyond the Facade, where we unmask the authentic self.